चलो we'll start with Ethan at least. Technical is always a challenge. जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी. जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी. यशोदनंदन ब्रजजन रंजन यमुनतीरवनचारी. यशोदनंदन ब्रजजन रंजन यमुनतीरवनचारी. जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी. जय राधा माधव बिहारी गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी. जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada. Nam Sakritam Ki Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada Ki. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat Nashtraprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhakta Bhavati Nashtaki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nandagopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna, we welcome everyone for today morning class. We are reading from 5th canto, 11th chapter, text 13 and 14. Kshetrajñātmā Purusha Purāṇah Sakshat Swayam Jyotir Ajha Pareshah Narayano Bhagavan Vasudevaha Swamaya Atmani Avadhiyamanaha Kshetrajñātmā Purusha Purāṇah Sakshat Swayam Jyotir Ajaha Pareshah Narayano Bhagavan Vasudevaha Swamaya Atmani Avadhiyamanaha Kshetrajñātmā Purusha Purāṇah Sakshat Swayam Jyotir Ajaha Pareshah Narayano Bhagavan Vasudevaha Swamaya Atmani Avidhiyamanaha. Somebody wants to recite? Kshetrajñātmā Purusha Purāṇah Sakshat Swayam Jyotir Ajaha Pareshah Narayano Bhagavan Vasudevaha Swamayatmani Vidhiyamanaha Kshetrajñātmā Purusha Purāṇah Sakshat Swayam Jyotir Ajaha Pareshah Narayano Bhagavan Vasudevaha Swamayatmani Vidhiyamanaha. Mothers. Kshetrajñātmā Purusha Purāṇah Sakshat Swayam Jyotir Ajaha Pareshah Narayano Bhagavan Vasudevaha Swamayatmani Avadhiyamanaha. I'll just recite the next verse and then we'll see word to word. Yata Nilasthāvara Jangamanam Atma Swarupena Nivisheta Ishat Evam Paro Bhagavan Vasudevaha Kshetrajña Atmedam Anupravishtaha. Kshetrajña, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Atma, all pervading. present everywhere. Purushaha, the unrestricted controller, who has unlimited power. Puranaha, the original. Saksha, perceivable by hearing from the authorities and by direct perception. Swayam, personal. Jyotihi, manifesting his bodily rays, the Brahman effulgence. Ajaha, never born. Paraishaha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Narayanaha, the resting place of all living entities. Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead with 6 opulences. Vasudevaha, the shelter of everything, manifested and non-manifest. Swamayaya, by his own potency. Atmani, in his own self or in the ordinary living entities. Avidyamanaha, existing as a controller. Yatha, as much as. Anilaha, the air. Sthavara, of non-moving living entities. Jangamana, and of the moving living entities. Atma Swarupena, by his expansion as a Supersoul. Nivishataha, entered. Ishat, controls. Evam, thus. Paraha, transcendental. Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vasudevaha, the shelter of everything. Kshetrajna, known as Kshetrajna. Atma, the vital force. Idam, this material world. Anupravishataha, entered within. Translation purport by His Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. The 2 kinds of Kshetrajna, the living entity as explained above, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is explained as follows. A previous verse, it was about soul, and this verse talks about Supersoul. He is all-pervading cause of creation. He is full in himself, is not dependent on others. He is perceived by hearing and direct perception. He is self-effulgent, does not experience birth, death, old age, and disease. He is the control of all the devatas, beginning with Lord Brahma. He is called Narayana. He is a shelter of living entities after the annihilation of this material world. He is full of all opulences. He is the resting place of everything material. He is therefore known as Vasudeva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By his own potency, he is present within the hearts of all living entities, just as the air or vital force is within the bodies of all beings, moving and non-moving. In this way, he controls the body. In this partial feature, the Supreme Personality of Godhead enters all bodies and controls them. Purport. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 15:15. Sarvasya chaham hidi sannivishto mata smrita jnanam apohanam cha. Every living being is controlled by the Supreme Living Being Paramātmā, who resides within everyone's heart. He is the Purusha Avatar, who creates this material world. The first Purusha Avatar is Mahavishnu, and that Mahavishnu is the plenary portion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Krishna's first expansion is Baladev, and his next expansions are Vasudev, Sankarshan, Anirudh, Pradyumna. Vasudev is the original cause of the Brahma Jyoti, and the Brahma Jyoti is the expansion of the rays of the body of Vasudev. Yasya prabha prabhavato jagadanda koti koti shushesha vasudhadi vibhuti bhinnam tat brahma nishkalam anantam ashesha bhutam govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is endowed with great power. The glowing effulgence of his transcendental form is the impersonal Brahman, which is absolute, complete, and unlimited, which displays the varieties of countless planets. with their different opulences and millions of universes. The Supreme Lord is described as follows in Bhagavad Gita: Maya tatam idam sarvam jagat avyaktamuti namastani sarvabhutani nachaham tesho vistitaha. By me, in my manifested form, this entire universe is pervaded. All beings are in me, but I am not in them. This is the position of the plenary expansions of Krishna as all-pervading Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradyumna and Anirudh. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuran Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatai Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gautasi Namaha Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadigo Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So welcome everyone for today morning Bhagavatam class. So after yesterday morning discussion, and these verses are a little technical and complex, so I thought I should have something displayed to talk about this. Understanding Kshetrajna is considered one of the most complicated subject matter. And that's where we have Mayavad. For them, Kshetrajna means one. But according to Bhagavad Gita, according to Vaishnava philosophy and understanding, Kshetrajna means two. The soul and the Supersoul. So today's verse is speaking about Supersoul, and yesterday there was a discussion about soul. So today's verse is discussing the qualities of Paramātmā or Supersoul. As part of a discussion today, I'll speak on 2 points. First is the Kshetrajna, the two knowers, soul and Supersoul. And second would be relationship between these two knowers, soul and Supersoul. So let's start with this. Hare Krishna. Fine, great, is there. So Kshetrajna. Jna means knower, knower of Kshetra. So what does Kshetra means? This is a subject matter discussed or highlighted in the 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, where Arjuna asked 6 questions to Krishna. Kshetra, Kshetrajna, Purusha, Prakriti, Jnanam, Gnya. My dear Lord, what are these objects? What is this? And then Krishna begins to speak. What is Kshetra and Kshetrajna? Kshetra refers to the field of activity. Kshetra also means to land, area. So that means field of activities. And Kshetrajna means the one who is the knower or the controller of that field of activity. That is called as Kshetrajna. So in our context, the word Kshetra refers here to the body. And Kshetrajna refers to one who knows the body belongs to me, not that I am the body. But there is another Kshetrajna who not only knows about this body, controls this body, but one who knows about everyone's body. That is called as Supersoul. Srila Prabhupada in Bhagavad Gita 13th chapter verse number 2, purport, describes what is Kshetra and Kshetrajna. Krishna said that his body is called the field, and that one who knows this body is called the knower of the field. This body is a field of activity for the conditioned soul. Through this body, we perform activities. It's a land where we sow the seed of karma, which fructifies and gives us result. That's what Kshetra is. The conditioned soul is entrapped in material existence, and he attempts to lord over material nature. So according to his capacity to dominate material nature, he gets a field of activity. And that field of activity is known as body or Kshetra. And what is a body? The body is made up of senses. The conditioned living entity wants to enjoy sense gratification, and according to his capacity to enjoy sense gratification is offered a body or field of activity. Therefore, the body is called Kshetra, or the field of activity for the conditioned soul. So then if this is Kshetra, who would be Kshetragya? Now the person who does not identify himself with the body is known as Kshetragya. One who knows the body is different than I is known as Kshetragya. So how do we understand there are two Kshetragya, the soul and supersoul? Srila Prabhupada gives a very simple analogy in this purport itself. And he says, Kshetra refers to a land. Kshetragya means the farmer. The farmer knows about his land, whereas the king, he knows about all the lands. So the farmer is soul who has some amount of control and influence on his designated area, where he sows the seeds of karma and he bears the results of their karmic activities. Whereas Kshetragya, the second Kshetragya, the super soul, he knows about all the land and all the fields. And therefore, like this, there is a difference between the soul and super soul in their qualities and their activities. So once again, soul is a secondary controller. The farmer doesn't own it. He owns it, but he has certain influence. But who is the primary controller? The king. And that's how Vaishnava philosophy defines the difference between soul and super soul. All right. Let's take a look at some of the qualities. This is again from 13th chapter. 13th, 19th verses talks about it beautifully. So 13th verse says the features of Kshetragya, which refers to soul here, which we were discussed yesterday. Neyam yat tat pravakshyami yajnata amritam ashnate. Hey Arjuna, the knowledge which I am about to tell you, if you understand this, then you will attain to eternity or life of full of bliss. What is that? Anadi mat param brahma. Brahma refers to soul. Anadi mat param nasat tan nasaduchyate. The three things or three qualities of soul have been described here as Kshetragya here. Anadi means beginningless. Mat param means he's always under my shelter. He's not independent. Nasat tan nasad. He does not have any material cause and material effect. Mamevamso jiva loka, jiva bhuta sanatana. These are the features of Kshetragya known as soul. And today's verse is talking about Kshetragya known as super soul. I'm not going to go to all the qualities. There are many qualities mentioned. We have 2 verses. I'll just refer 2-3 verses from Bhagavad Gita for that to brief you on these qualities. What are the qualities of the super soul? What is the difference? Sarvata pani padam tat sarvatokshi shiro mukham sarvata shruti malloke sarvam avratya tishtati. Sarvata, everywhere. Pani, his hands. Padam, his feet. Akshi, his eyes. Shiro means his head. Mukham, his face. Sarvataha shruti malloke, his ears. Sarvam avratya tishtati. He is everywhere. So Kshetragya, the soul knows only about his body, whereas the super soul knows about everything. He has his eyes, he has his face, he has his head, he has his ears, he has his hands, feet, present everywhere. And Prabhupada says in the purport, this represents omnipotency, an omnipotent feature of the Lord, which means he can accept our offering. We offer bhoga to the Lord. Question comes, how come this deity made up of some material elements can accept our offering? And that is what? Omnipotency. All-powerful feature of the Lord is Yes, he accepts offering, and we have many, many examples like that where devotees have made an offering and the Lord accepts. And Krishna says, Pattanam Pushpam Phalam Toyam. Yome Bhakti Aprachati. If you offer with me love, I'll accept. He hears to our prayers. Draupadi was in Hastinapur when she was getting disrobed. Krishna was not even close by. But when she raised her hands, she called out Vasudeva Madhusudan. When she called out, Krishna heard, and Krishna came there and protected Draupadi. So yes, the Lord hears to our prayers. These are the features. He sees all of our activities, and through that we are provided our karmic reactions. These are some of the qualities, and there are many other things the Supersoul does. And of all, He is all pervading, like the sun. Prabhupada gives an example of a sun. And then, in the next verse, it is mentioned about Supersoul. This is the difference between soul and Supersoul. Sarvendriya gunabhasham, sarvendriya vivarjitam, asaktam sarvabhrashchaiva, nirgunam gunabhoktacha. He is the original source of all senses. And this, a contradictory qualities of the Supersoul is mentioned. He is a source of all senses, but he is without senses. He is unattached, yet he is the maintainer of all. He transcends the modes of material nature, yet he is the master of the modes of material nature. So three contradictions are presented here. Source of senses, but he is without senses. He is a maintainer, but he is detached. He is the master of the modes, but he is above the modes. What does it mean, he is sources of the senses? When it is mentioned that the Lord is source of the senses, but he is without senses, it refers to that he does not have any material senses. He is beyond our sense perception. So question comes, if the Lord is beyond our sense perception, how can we perceive him? How can we serve him? Any idea? Consciousness. What else? How can we serve him? And therefore the Lord takes the deity form. Devotional service. But to whom would you offer devotional service? How would you perform? He is beyond sense perception, but yet the same Lord takes the deity form. This is the fifth type of Archa Vigraha. He takes the deity form, which we can perceive. And through that, we serve him. And therefore, he takes the deity form. Otherwise, he has no need to take a deity form for this thing like that. And when can we understand the Lord in his transcendental form? The process is when our senses are purified through the process of bhakti, then we can understand the Lord as he is in his spiritual form. Next is mentioned that he is maintainer of all living entities, but he is detached. Bhoktaram yagatapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram. How does he maintain us? How does Krishna maintain all of us? In what form? How is he providing for us? Through Mother Nature, providing water, air, the sunlight, food, everything. Yet it is mentioned he is detached. Krishna spoke Arjuna the whole Bhagavad Gita. At the end he said, Arjuna, yatha ichchasi tatha kuru. So this is a quality with the Lord. But when we talk about ourselves, when we take care of somebody, we become attached to that. Whenever we are providing for somebody, we develop expectations and we become attached. But here it is mentioned about the Lord for Supersoul, he is detached, which means he does not interfere in Lord's free will. So many times, we're going to discuss that shortly, everything that we do in our life is sanctioned by Paramātmā. Many times people ask this question then, does it mean Paramātmā sanctions sinful actions also? Well, that's the point. Paramātmā does not obstruct or interfere in anyone's free will. We decide, and accordingly Lord provides based on our karma. He is unaffected by Jiva's activity. He's detached means he does not get affected by our actions and he does not interfere in our free will. That's the meaning of he being detached from us. So we have been speaking about care here. So I wanted to raise a question here. What would be the difference between responsible caregiving versus pampering? So, pampering means, how would we define? What would be the synonym for pampering? Too much affection, undue affection, spoiling. Yes, spoiling. With too much affection, we spoil the person. So, in other words, we do pamper so that we don't lose that person. That person should not go away. So, even if you or she wants something which is not good for him or her, we still provide so that, we should not lose that person. That's pampering. But versus responsible caregiving. What would be the difference then? Responsible caregiving versus pampering. Yes?
One is selfless and the other is selfish.
Okay, yeah. Selfless and one is selfish. Okay, good. What else? Yes, and you.
Responsible care maybe not always, pleasant, not always pleasant.
Not always pleasant. Okay, okay. So can I say that? Caregiving means creating facility for their growth. Pampering means keeping dependents happy. Caregiving means fulfill needs. Pampering means fulfill wants. So here in pampering, the care is not, or the concern is not their growth. The concern is that person should remain loyal to me. Whereas in caregiving, the actual goal is that person should grow. So result is, in responsible caregiving, the individual becomes self-reliant and responsible. Whereas in the case of pampering, the person always remains dependent. And look at how Krishna, after telling everything to Arjuna, what did Krishna say? Arjuna, yatha ichchasi tatha kuru. Now you make a decision. Think about whatever I have told you. Stand on your feet, make your decision, and fight your battle. That's about responsible. So therefore, when it is mentioned, the Lord maintains, but yet He is detached, which means He provides facilities for our growth. Yes, challenges would be there in the lives of even devotees, but challenges are the stepping stones for success. Challenges are not the obstacles created by the Lord to hinder or hamper our progress, but they are the stepping stones. Just like a cocoon turns into a butterfly. A cocoon, we call it cocoon. He has to break the shell, and it's a very struggleful, and breaks the shell, and the wings develops the strength to fly, and that's how it becomes a butterfly. So struggles that comes in the life of a devotee is not an obstruction or obstacle by the Lord, but it's an opportunity for us to grow by applying what the Lord is teaching us. So that's the point here about this. Challenge is a stepping stone, Lord is not our supplier. Okay, the third, a contradiction. Master of the modes, yet he is above the modes. What it means? He is fully independent. We are not fully independent. We are always dependent. When it comes to the Lord or Supersoul, he is Swarat. His activities, Chanma Karma Chame Divyam, his birth and activities are all transcendentals. And the laws of nature, like birth, death, old age, and disease, they do not apply to him. And this is where the Mayavadis, they get confused. They say whatever is happening to us is our pastime. We have forgotten who we are, so we are having a material pastime. When we'll remember we are lords, then all of these things will not happen. But Prabhupada says, but Vaishnava philosophy says, Lord is always Lord, and Jiva is always Jiva. We are always dependent, and Lord is always independent. So these are some of the things. And the qualities of the Supersoul, apart from the contradiction, the last one I'll discuss is undivided, which means he's present everywhere as he is. And this is evident by this beautiful verse from Ishopanishad invocation. Om Purnam Madaha Purnam Idam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. This verse says the Lord, the complete units are manifested from him, these universes. yet he remains completely complete. It's not that something has come from him, then there is a scarcity of it. And that is what means by the Lord is complete in himself. He is always full. Although he has provided complete units for our existence, yet he is still the complete whole. Again, the difference between us and the Lord. That's how these are some of the differences. Okay, enough of philosophy and technicality. Let's come to the main point, which is relevant for us. What is the function of Supersoul? If Supersoul exists along with Atma, then what is its function in our life? Any idea, any thoughts? What does Supersoul do? Yes. To guide us towards him, then how does he function? How does he do that? Shri Jagannath Baldev Subhadra Mani ki jai, Shri Gaunita ki jai. How does he do that? How does he perform that?
It depends on our consciousness.
It depends on the consciousness.
When we're in the Brahma state already, then he's directly telling us, but otherwise.
Okay. Okay. So then we can hear him directly, and when we are in the Brahma Bhuta state, all right. I'll go a little more fundamental, a little more basic. That's a little advanced. It's a very fundamental question. A French scientist by the name of D. Socrates, in the early 18th century, when they began to study psychology, he coined a problem, which is still a problem even today. How does the mind and body interact? According to the modern science, mind is spiritual, something which is not material. And what is not material for them? Whatever is not perceivable becomes non-material. So mind is non-perceivable, therefore it becomes something which is not material. So if something which is not material, how can it relate with material is called as a body-mind problem, coined by a French scientist, D. Socrates. And interestingly, still scientists do not know how the body and mind interacts. When you talk about psychology, there's no meaning of psychology without mind. So they do recognize mind exists, but they don't know how mind and body interacts. So this is what I would like to speak on briefly. So my first question over here is, if somebody asks you, to whom does the body belongs? What would the general audience say? You go to the college and you ask, whom does this body belongs to? What would they say? To me, if you go to a doctor, what would the doctor say? To whom does the body belongs? To the patient? You go to the lawyer, whom does the body belongs to? The client. The law of the nation says, you are the owner of the body. To help you understand, if a patient is getting operated, he has to give an acknowledgement and approval for the doctor to do a surgery. And while the doctor is doing a surgery, he finds some of the medical problem, he has to stitch him back, bring him back out of the unconscious state, anesthesia, and tell him, sir, when I was doing a surgery in this part of the body, right next to it, 2 inches away, or 2 millimeters away, I found another area where I have to do another surgery. Do I have your approval? He will again sign and give an approval, and he will again operate, tear him apart, and then again do that. Which means even our own life's experience tells us, I am the control of the body. If I feel like raising my hand, I'll raise my hand. If I want to talk, I talk. If I want to eat, I eat. All of us wanted to be here, we came. Those who didn't want to be here, they're not here. So day-to-day experience also teaches us that I am the control of the body. But actually that's not true. And let me prove you scientifically. To prove you who is actually the controller. Not philosophically, scientifically, and then I'll talk about philosophically. So the question that we're going to talk about here is, who controls the body? So according to medical science, our body is nothing but is made up of nervous system. And the two things in nervous system, somatic and autonomic. Somatic refers to voluntary, and autonomic means the activities which happens on its own. According to medical science, we only perform 5% voluntary actions. 95% actions that happens within our body are autonomous, which means we only have 5% control on the body. 95% things which are happening with us are not even known to us. Can you quickly think of some example what is happening within our body which are beyond our control and is happening? Digestion. What else? Huh? Breathing. What else? The blinking of the eyes. So there are many things which are happening in our body which we don't know, like the beating of the heart, pumping of the blood by the heart. Imagine heart takes a tea break. That will be technically called as heart attack. If it decides. Who controls that? The lungs keep oxygenating all through the day, all through the night. The kidneys keep filtering all through the day, all through the night. 95% of such, I've just quoted 3-4 activities, 95% of such activities are happening automatically. 5% we have control. If that is the case, then how can we be called as a complete controller of a body when we are not even aware of what's happening? This is medically and so ironic. It's so ironic that the same doctor tells you you are the controller of the body. And this is from the medical science telling us that we only have 5% control. Imagine if we are given even 1% more control on your body, think what will happen. And I'll present you a case. So far we only have 5% control. And even if 1% more control is given to us, you know what's going to happen to us? Let's imagine tomorrow we are provided the control on our breathing, which means we consciously inhale and we consciously exhale. You know how we will look like? You know how we look like? Our life would be something like this. I'll show the picture. It is called as Ondine's curse syndrome. Ondine was the name of the doctor who diagnosed the problem with this child, who since his birth, this function of breathing was not autonomous. It had to be voluntary done. And this is how we would look like, fixed with tube all over, and we cannot sleep, we cannot function. And therefore this one function which is autonomous became voluntary. The Dr. Ondine called it as a curse syndrome, and its technical name is congenital central hypoventilation syndrome. If just 1% control we get more on our body, we'll be like this potato, always lying on the bed. Our whole life is useless. So, I believe this is enough to prove we are not the controller of the body. Is that okay? This could be good presentation for your college students. So my question here is, if you're not conscious, then how can we be the exclusive controller of the body? Yes or no? We cannot be the controller. Then now question comes, who determines the rate of respiration, rhythm of heart, and temperature of the body? We are not doing that. And who destroys the microbes in the body? Immune system. But who controls the immune system? Okay, let's go back to the original problem. Does our mind control the body? The medical science says the mind controls the body. Does anyone know what are the functions of mind? Mind has 3 functions: thinking, emotions, feeling, and willing. Let's do one quick exercise. All of you, please raise both your hands high up. All of you, please put your right hand down. All of you now put your left hand down. I want you to I'm going to be a little scientific here now. I want you to briefly reflect. When you raised your hand, there was a willing. Unless there was a willingness of the mind, you would not have raised your hand. Yes or no? Unless there is willingness of the mind, you would not have raised your hand. And the classic example is between a mother and a child. Mother tells the child something and child like nothing doing because he's not willing. So now, because our mind agreed, does it mean mind is the controller? It seems so be. If it is the case, then my question is, well, this is what looks like. Because my mind agreed, therefore I'm able to raise my hand. If that is the case, then my question is, Can a paralyzed person walk if his mind will to walk? Why not? We say mind is a controller. If mind is a controller of the body, then the paralyzed person, he should be able to walk. His leg is still there. His leg is not amputated. He still has his legs, has his hands. If a paralyzed person wants to raise his left hand and if his left part of the body is paralyzed, how much ever he wills, he cannot raise his hand. This is so simple. And medical science is so confused about it. So now question is, who controls the body? Now even mind doesn't control the body. Yes, and
Question just arises that maybe we can say that we partially control.
yeah, so we already spoke about it. We are secondary controller. And Supersoul is primary controller. And we are partial control because we have 5% control on the body. So you have some control. But 95% you don't have control. So question is, then who's controlling 95%? And whoever controls 95% would become the actual owner of the body. You know, that's what happens. Whoever has the maximum share of the company is the owner of the company. So if you have 95% control on this, so who becomes the owner of the body? That 95% shareholder, not the 5%. We become the secondary controller. You're correct. But my question is, body is not the controller, mind is not the controller, then who else is the controller? The science does not acknowledge anything beyond the body and mind. There is nothing else for the science today. Then who is that controller? Okay, from the spiritual science we may say soul. We already defined it's 5% control. Yes, Roji.
What is the concept of conscious and subconsciousness go into this?
How is the concept of?
Conscious and subconscious.
Consciousness is the function of consciousness is the function of the soul. So subconsciousness, that's again the state of the mind. But whatever is happening, that's happening through the soul. So we, which means we're having this 5% control, is the control of the soul on the body, only 5%. Yes, because the soul is the root of consciousness. And the mind is R-O-U-T-E, root of consciousness. Through the mind, our consciousness manifests in the world. So 5% of we as a soul only have 5% control. This is medical science recognizes. But they don't know who that 5% belong to. They call it voluntary. And autonomous is 95%. So who is the 95% controller? Bhagavad Gita answers. And the answer is, please repeat after me. Upadrashtanumanta cha Bharta Bhokta Mahaishvara Paramātmēti chapi ukto Dehe asmin purusha paraha. So Paramātmā, Krishna says, has 3 functions. What are the 3 functions? He is Upadrashta, Anumanta, Bharta. He is the overseer, he is the permitter, and he is the supreme enjoyer. So that 95% control, permission, is with whom? Is with the Supersoul. If the soul would not sanction, the Supersoul would not sanction, how much ever we will, how much ever we desire, it will never get succeed or never will get approved. According to Vedic theology, Vedic sciences, what medical science call 95% autonomous is a function of under the control of the Supersoul. And we as a soul only have 5% control. So this is a function of the Supersoul in our existence. So just to help and conclude this topic, how does a soul and Supersoul relate to each other? How does it function? The function of the soul is to desire. Soul can only do one thing, nothing else, desires. We are not the fulfiller of our desires. Yes, we have desired so many things in our life, but only some desires get fulfilled. Yes or no? How many of you agree? So it means we are not the fulfiller of our desires. Somebody else fulfills our desire. Who is that the fulfiller of the desire? That is Supersoul. And how does Supersoul fulfill the desire? Through the material nature. Let me give you another model or an example of it, how it functions. And with that, I'll pause here. So as a jiva, who is only 5% control of the body, his only function is desire. We desire. And the super soul, who is present everywhere, who is present within us, as Paramātmā, he hears our desires. And Paramātmā, he either sanctions or he rejects. Now, question is, how does Paramātmā sanctions and rejects our desires? How would you do that? Yes, he's Swarat, he's fully independent. If he's fully independent, true. But then does it mean somebody wants to commit a crime, his desire must have been approved by the Supersoul? So then why was Supersoul approve, some sinful desire, a desire of a person who wants to harm someone else? So is that Supersoul, is he partial, is he impartial? Krishna says, Samaham sarva bhuteshu, I'm equal to all. So if he's equal to all, there has to be some rule, some code of conduct through which Supersoul will function. What is that? Yes, Yamuna? If Supersoul have to be impartial, Samaham sarva bhuteshu, there has to be some code of conduct which he has to follow so that he remains impartial. There has to be some rule. It cannot be, just like for example in the temple if we stay, there is a rule, 4:30 a.m. Temple president to a new sadhaka, everyone has to be there 4:30 a.m. It doesn't matter, you are senior or junior, which means applicable for all. So what is that rule? That is called as law of karma. So based on our karma credit, the Supersoul sanctions or Supersoul disapproves. And that's how Supersoul is impartial. What we have in our account, based on that, it is approved or disapproved. And if our desire is approved, who fulfills the desire? We cannot do anything. We are only 5% controller of the body. Then the Supersoul directs material nature, Prakriti. And that Prakriti, this body is nothing but the combination of three modes of material nature. Belongs to whom? Prakriti. When the Supersoul directs Prakriti, that Prakriti performs an action which fulfills our desire. It could be as simple as eating. Once it is approved, and then Prakriti gets activated, and our hands, feet, mouth, senses gets activated, and then we eat it. And that's how the relationship. So Jiva becomes temporarily happy because his desire is satisfied, but the nature of desire is the more your desire is fulfilled, you want more and more. And the last thing, what happens when Jiva desires and his desires are not fulfilled? If his desire is fulfilled, he is temporarily satisfied and he wants more. So it means he is frustrated. And if his desire is not fulfilled, he is again frustrated. In either case, a living entity desiring sense gratification always remains frustrated. He can never be happy. Therefore, this verse and what we were reading from Bhagavad Gita, one who understands the science of soul and supersoul, only he can become happy and blissful. Now knowing very well what I should be desiring, I should only have one desire, Das Anudas, to become the servant of the servant of the servant. My dear Lord, and therefore to conclude with, in 1966, Srila Prabhupada, when he was speaking about the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, Prabhupada said, what is the definition of Hare Krishna Mahamantra? It's a prayer to the Lordship, please engage me in your devotional service. It's like cultivating the right desire. So only desire a living entity should aspire for, please engage me in your devotional service. To conclude with, we talked about the function of the supersoul. Of course, we talked about the qualities of soul and supersoul. And then finally, I spoke about function of supersoul because it's a highly technical subject, therefore I had to have a presentation. I don't know still how much it made sense. So I scientifically discussed about how we are only 5% control of the body as per medical science. If we are 5% controller, then who is the original controller of the body? Who performs the autonomous function? Is it the mind? I discussed the case of a paralysis. His mind has willing. If a paralytic person wills to raise his hand, he cannot raise his hand. despite his willing it. So that also doesn't work. Then who? Then Bhagavad Gita says, Upadrashna Numantacha Bharta Bhokta Ishvara. It is Paramātmā who is the overseer, permitter, and enjoyer. Whatever we want has to be sanctioned by the Supersoul. So yes, Supersoul is within our heart, observing everything that we desire, and based on our karmic credit, Supersoul permits and sometimes rejects. And that's how a living entity continues to live his struggleful life in this world, trying to become the controller of all, trying to lord over the material nature. And therefore Prabhupada said, as long as you try to lord over the material nature, you will permanently remain dissatisfied. Nobody can be happy. Even Hiranyakashipu was not happy, despite being the controller of the three worlds. Why? His 5-year-old son was the cause of his dissatisfaction. Like that. Hare Krishna. So with that, I'll pause here. Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. Was it making some sense? I hope we have some better understanding about Supersoul and our relationship with him. Questions or comments? Yes, Prabhuji.
Thank you for this very good lecture and a very enlightening presentation, simple, to be able to retain it easily. So where does the healer come in? The spiritual healer. I mean, there's healing going on, spiritual healing. We refer to Jesus, for instance, who made the blind point, but also Bruno Gröning, who's actually having societies in India also.
Correct.
People are getting healed. Those who cannot see can see, those who cannot walk can walk, those who whatever. How does that come into your concept?
So Prabhu is asking.
They don't heal themselves, they actually say that they don't heal, they just ask you. But how do you fit it in?
I'll take it in two parts. First, I'll make it into a form of what is the role of a guru, spiritual healer. One is a manifestation. So in Vedic concept, what we call as spiritual guru, he's said to be a manifestation of Paramātmā. In what sense? Paramātmā, at our condition, we cannot hear his voice. And Paramātmā is impartial. But when it comes to spiritual teacher, he's partial. Partial to what extent? He will not let us go and make wrong decisions. So Paramātmā becomes the external manifestation. The spiritual teacher or guru becomes the external manifestation of Paramātmā to guide us in our life. Therefore Krishna says, to be able to progress, tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevya upadeshyanti te jnanam gnaninas tattvadarshana. If you want to progress, you got to take shelter of tattvadarshana. Without it, it's not possible. Unless we have an external teacher, we really cannot qualify ourselves ever in this life or next to be able to hear the sound of Paramātmā. Now, extending that, you're talking about the concept of spiritual healer, which is there in Christianity. And what is the role of a spiritual healer, the function? Okay, so what's the function of a healer?
Just heals your ailments.
The healer
He doesn't. They actually say, I don't heal. It goes to they have different names.
Okay.
According to the.
Oh, okay.
They are in, sometimes they're Christian, sometimes they're.
Correct.
They're Sufis, sometimes they're.
Correct. So there are skill sets by which there are different knowledge sets by which an individual can manipulate and play with the material nature and can help create, maintain and destroy. What we call as spiritual healer here, fixing certain physiological and psychological ailments. Similarly, we have medical doctors, allopathy, Ayurvedic, homeopathy. They also know how to manipulate nature, utilize nature to provide treatment to the ailing body. So these sciences are there to help us with our psychological and physiological defects. And these all sciences have been provided traditionally in the Vedic sciences, Vedic scriptures, where Krishna himself provides over the period of time where people can take care of their body, because we need the body and the mind to function in this world. And if for certain reason we have spoiled it, there are methodologies to fix it. And those people who help fixes it, they may be called by different names. Somebody may be called as a yoga teacher, helping us maintain a good health. Somebody may be called as a doctor. Somebody may be called as a healer. But they all have got some skill set and science how to play around with the nature and utilize nature to fix which is made up of nature. Because body and mind, both are the products of material nature. They're not spiritual. So if we need to fix physiology and psychology, we need to utilize nature and play around with the nature to fix it. Because there's nothing spiritual in it. Like that. Yes, Yamuna?
Thank you so much for that talk. I didn't understand it fully with the terms of subconsciousness and supersoul.
Yeah, this conscious, no. These are the functions of the mind. So soul is R-O-O-T, root of the consciousness. When the person is dead, there's no consciousness. Why? Because the soul is not there. The consciousness is origin. Our consciousness is the symptom of soul. What's the function of mind then? Mind acts as a bridge between the soul and the body. And it is called as the root, R-O-U-T-E, the root, the way of consciousness to manifest through this body in the external world. And that mind have two states. This is what the science talks about, medical science, conscious state and the subconscious state. What is subconscious state? Conscious state is where you are aware of things. Subconscious, these are the past memories, hidden within your mind, which surfaces at certain point of time in your life, particularly your dreaming state, is a function of subconscious mind. You go to deep sleep, not deep sleep, prior to deep sleep is what you have a dreaming state. In deep sleep, we don't have dreaming state. So in that dreaming state, what happens? Subconscious mind gets kicked. And you will see dreams where sometimes you're flying in the sky like a bird, you're jumping in the forest like an animal and whatnot. Those are our past lives which are surfacing up on and coming to the conscious level, we're able to experience that. This is about conscious and subconscious mind, it functions. And there are ways to access subconscious mind while in your awake conscious, while you're in the awake state. So that because, for example, mind is so powerful, whatever we see here, it all gets registered in the subconscious mind. And there are tricks and the tips how to recall things from the subconscious mind. So there are certain people who are already blessed by a great memory, which means they can recall very easily. Where are they recalling from? That's all from the subconscious mind. And subconscious mind is a storehouse of all your past lives. When you go through that treatment, what do you call as, there's a medical treatment profession where they help you recall your past life memories. What is it? Hypnosis. How does it function? In hypnosis, they activate your subconscious mind. And then through the right questions, they draw those memories from your subconscious mind. So hypnosis is very simple, but what is the training is for the doctor is to ask the right question. So that a particular memory is pulled out from your subconscious mind, which is literally an unlimited space. Everything what we've done is stored here, and therefore all of us would have an experience. Suddenly, some past life, before we were devotee, those memories suddenly comes to us and they begin to haunt our past habits and things because they're resurfacing from the subconscious mind. And therefore, when we engage in devotional life, doing this all activities, these are replacing, layering up on top of that subconscious mind, and because these are spiritual activities, they are purifying and destroying those subconscious memories gradually. Like that, this whole thing functions.
I have another question that comes related with this one. When we have dreams that are happening like in the future or dreams that really mean something, could it also come from the Supersoul, and it seems to be similar to the subconscious thing?
Can those dreams be an indication from the Supersoul? I am not aware of any Shastric Praman for that, like that. But there is a science of omens. When Duryodhana was born, Viduruji noticed that. There's a whole science. So 64 arts which were taught to Krishna, one of the art was science of omen. And in that science of omen, there is a science of dreams. What kind of dreams you get, you can understand how your tomorrow, how your future would look like. But we don't discuss it today. The reason is because in those days there were no TV, no social media. So our exposure to the world was very much limited. Because today we are super exposed. We are too much consuming information. So by the time you go to sleep, you can't even access your subconscious mind today, because we are layering up too many information. It wasn't before when there was no internet and no TV. People were just aware of what's happening in the neighborhood, not even in the next lane. Things at Max were local, were known within the house. But today we are feeding so much information. So somebody gets a dream, and then many times people ask me, "Oh, what this dream means?" I say, first you'll tell me, what was the last movie you saw? What you read, maybe something from the movie only. I said, we cannot talk about it today. But there's a whole book about this in Vedic sciences. It is under the science of omen. And this was one of the kala which used to be taught in those days to Gurukulis. 64 arts, this is one of the arts. You see snake, this is what it means. You see monkeys in your dream. For example, one example. If you see monkeys in your dream, which angry monkeys, which means Hanumanji is angry from you. If you see, yeah, these are the things. But I will not speak about it today because maybe you saw Ape Man movie. That's the reason you saw monkeys in your dream. So yeah, there's this whole thing of that. Yes. Okay, so class is over officially. Those who wish to move around, they can move around. And yes, go ahead.
Thank you for class, Prabhu. For a long time I have a doubt about this moment, which is mentioned in a shloka. There is two times it says that he is present within the hearts of all living entities.
Mm-hmm.
And another second time it mentions that the Supreme Personality of Godhead enters all bodies.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain that entering? It means there is a time when living entities are without him.
Every atom, according to Bhagavatam, the Lord is present within every atom. Matter has no value without spirit. For example, we are in this structure. This is made up of concrete, bricks, whatnot. This structure stands in this particular shape because spirit gave it a shape, which means there was some labors involved in creating the structure, which means spirit. If there was no spirit, this would be in a very fragmented, as a raw material. So matter cannot take any form or shape or have any value without spirit. So every atom within our body, for it to function, it has to have Supersoul. It has to have presence of Lord. Like that it is mentioned. The Lord is there. Maya tadam idam sarvam jagat avyakta murtina. Prabhupada quotes that verse, 9th chapter, verse number 4. I am within and I am without. So he's there also and he's not there also. And he's there within and he's outside, which means he's all pervasive. So to sum up the whole thing, he's all pervasive. But to understand his nature from our, I can be inside the room. How can I be outside the room simultaneously? I'm inside the room, I can't be, but the Lord can be here, Lord can be there simultaneously, and between the room, within the wall also. So like that it is explained about his achintya qualities, inconceivable qualities. But to simplify this, please understand matter has no value if there is no spirit handling that matter.
It's interesting, like historically, when he enters, is it in a creation mode?
Yeah, he enters, right? The Lord manifests for Mahavishnu, he enters into the matter as Garbhodaksha Vishnu, then begins to give it a shape, and then the universe begins to manifest, and before the universe manifests, that Garbhodaksha again expands himself as Shirodaksha Vishnu, and then when the living entities are taking shape, and then he enters into every living entity as the Paramātmā. So Vishyate tad anantaram, that happens like that. And yet, he's always there. In one form he's entering, but that form cannot exist without his presence already. So he's already there in another form, but in another form he's entering as Paramātmā. Like that. I guess we should pause here. We have to move to another city also. Hare Krishna. I'm happy at least I could make some sense. I was a little worried I should not get too technical and complex. Jagadaru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
This is 250 plus years problem which has not been solved.